I took a shortcut from one corridor to the other across the triangle, and I looked up and I saw a red rectangle about 2 feet. Red, purple red, and it just stood there, and I stood and looked at it, and I thought, was it a flying rocket for Guy Fawkes Night? Was it an aeroplane? And I decided it wasn't, and I went round in a circle and had a look at this thing, but it just stayed where it was in the sky. There was no halo around it, there was nothing at all. I got the suggestion of a slight dip, indented cup thing at the top of it, and then it just suddenly went off. There was a blaze of light and it disappeared. I got to the ward that I was supposed to relieve the nurse on, and she said, "Where have you been?" And I thought I'd watched this for a couple of minutes, and it was more than 45 minutes later before I got to the ward.
So you'd lost some time, as it were?
Well, it would appear so, yes.
Was it bonfire time?
Yeah, it was round about either the week before or the week after Guy Fawkes, which made me think it might be a firework, but I wasn't sure. By the time I watched it, then I was convinced no, it wasn't.
What was the reaction of people like your hubby here and your friends when you told them about this?
Well, working at a psychiatric hospital, the first thing I said was, "I think I've seen a flying saucer," and she said, "Yes, well, I'll get the injection when I come back from it."
You're supposed to be on the staff, yes?
I was on the staff.
Yeah.
And the following morning I went home and I told my husband I'd seen a flying saucer, and he said, "Yes, dear, I'll run you a bath and you'll have a good sleep." And the following night I got phone calls from all the staff. "There are men in green coats here waiting to take you away. There is an ambulance, a flying saucer coming for you in the morning." And I got these comments, and then 2 days later the national newspapers had headlines, "South of England and north of France, sighting seen." Some people had seen men in silver suits, some people had been taken up, and I felt quite unimportant then, because all I'd seen was just a little red thing in the sky.
But suffice to say that you were not alone. At or around that period, there were several sightings of something people had seen that they imagined anyway.
No, in the national newspapers,
Yeah.
I personally never met anyone till last night who had seen anything.
That's what I meant, but there were others apart from you who'd seen other things separately elsewhere. You've had a similar experience, haven't you?
Yes.
You come from a part of the world I know, Pendle, in Lancashire. Yes. Now, twice, I gather.
Yes.
What happened in your case?
13 years ago, I was walking with my middle daughter, and we saw a red light, which I said, "Look at that aeroplane. It's flying low. It's going to go into Pendle if it's not careful." And all of a sudden, it just turned round like that and went at the side of us and followed. We were about 100 yards away from our house, and it just followed us to our house. We ran in. My daughter was terrified. We looked through the curtains. It had gone as though it was going to the next village. And then I went to the door, and it came from over our house. It was like it was hovering. And then it just went back to where it was going from. And then 4 years ago, I saw a great big star in the sky, which I thought was really a massive star. That's all I thought it was. And a friend was talking to me, and she kept saying, "What are you looking at behind me?" I said, "Look at that big star over Pendle." I thought it looked near. And she said, "Oh, yeah." So we carried on talking, and then all of a sudden, it just separated into two stars, and with a big orange vapour trail in the middle. And the star at this side shot something orange to the floor and started going up into the sky, and it started flashing on and off, just like an aeroplane. And then all of a sudden, it turned into a craft, and that's all that was. It went up into the sky.
A craft?
Yeah.
What do you mean, like a...
Well, you would say, "Look at that aeroplane," but it's come off that star. You know, I just thought, well, it looks like an aeroplane, but at first it was a star, then it was flashing in and out, then it just turned into a craft. Now, the star that was left, that shot something orange to the floor, that went up into the sky, and then off that came a red craft with a vapour trail at the back of it, and that went the other way.
Pendle Hill is famous for witches, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. That may or may not be anything to do with it. Strange it should happen there. I mean, what did you... I mean, when you sat down, when you went home and sat down and thought, had a cup of tea and took a side, I mean, what did you think?
I thought it was marvellous, because that just clinched it for me, because for 13 years I've seen things, shapes and all sorts. I'm not saying there are little green men or spaceships or anything. I just know that there are unidentified things in the sky. But that just clinched it for me, because to me, nobody can explain All right, you can say there were 2 aeroplanes, but you can say, well, they must have hangars in the sky now.
Let me introduce you to a chap along here called Keith. Now, Keith was in the RAF, so he knows about aeroplanes, and he knows, presumably, about things that you see when you're flying up in the sky. And yet you had an experience, I understand, when you were based in Cyprus.
1956, yes.
Yes. Tell us about it.
We were coming back from the mess about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Sunday afternoon, no flying going on, and we spotted a thing, it looked like a pencil, if you like, in the sky. Somebody said, well, who's flying today? You know, nobody. Then we realised it wasn't moving, so we lined it up with the top of a telegraph pole so we could get some as to what it was doing, you know, and it just sat there for about 20 minutes. Then one of the aircraft was sent up after it. It got up to about 500 or 600 feet, and this thing just turned on its side and it became a silver disc, which then took off, and it just gathered speed and went at a hell of a rate.
So, let me get this straight. Top brass in the RAF took this so seriously that they
That's right.
sent an RAF pilot up into the sky to monitor it, and that RAF pilot confirmed what you chaps coming out of the mess at 2 o'clock in the afternoon had seen yourselves.
That's right, yeah, yeah.
I mean,
Picked up on radar. But the interesting thing, I think, on the squadron, everybody, pilots included, generally accepted that UFOs existed.
Did they?
Oh, yes, it was a typical thing that, oh, they've seen a UFO today. One came from Malta over to North Africa. We didn't know it was coming. We thought it was a plane. That was in the evening. When it came over, we just thought another blasted crash was going to happen, you know, because it was silent, so we thought the engines had stopped. When it was discovered that somebody said over the radio, oh, it passed over Malta a few moments ago, that's what you've seen. And that was on radar, and air traffic knew it was there.
Omar, you know a thing or two about these matters. What is it these chaps are seeing?
Well, they are seeing alien craft piloted by intelligent beings, we believe. I've been investigating UFOs for about 25 years, and I've discussed or spoken to aircraft pilots, policemen, clergymen, right through to experiences that they've encountered themselves. I've spoken to pilots who've picked these things up on radar while travelling in a Trident in 1967 from Portugal. I've spoken to policemen who have been on duty in the early hours of the morning and seen cigar-shaped objects rising up from behind trees. But of course, even a policeman, if he says that he's seen something like this, people might joke. But mind you, if a policeman said he saw you breaking into a shop, then you'd end up with 2 years. But a UFO is a different matter.
Okay, okay. I mean, I think it's taken as read. There are lots of unexplained things that can be seen in the sky. But
yes.
Say, let's assume that everything you say is absolutely correct. There are alien spacecraft, unidentified flying objects. Call them what you will, up there. What are they doing? Why are they there? Who are they looking at? And where are they from?
Well, they're certainly studying us. I think possibly later in the programme you might be discussing what they're up to, but I've interviewed people that virtually have been up to these things and almost kicked the tyres, as you might say. There have been recognisable shapes, portholes, coloured lights, and at times the witnesses have received messages from the craft.
Really?
Yes.
Saying what?
That the beings in these craft are the Watchers, in other words, the guardians of Earth.
This gets more and more fascinating as we go on. Who else has seen, I'll come back to that later, but who else has seen UFOs? Hands up. Right, let's start here, lady here. What have you seen?
I saw a red light and a white light in the sky, stationed, and they came together, and they followed us for 2 hours in the car, and they came over the car.
For 2 hours?
Well, yeah, about 2 hours, 50 miles. I'm actually saying 2 hours. It took us 2 hours going in the morning and 3 hours coming back. I don't know why.
And how do you explain that?
I can't explain it. I've no idea.
It couldn't have been 2 stars?
No, I saw the object when it came over the car.
Gentleman down there had his hand up. What did you see?
Well, I was on my way to work, and I saw 3, well, I thought it was clouds, but there was disc shape in the sky. Beautiful the morning, no cloud in sight except for these 3 things. and I saw a jet with no vapor trail going towards it.
I mean, a real jet? Or
Yeah, a real
proper
jet.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I live near Birmingham Airport, so it could
Okay.
have been an airliner going to the airport. And as it got, I don't know the distance, but as it got closer to these three objects, they moved across the horizon very fast and just stopped in another place on the horizon. Just went whack like that and stopped there. And then behind this big jet, I saw smaller jets with vapor trails following it behind, and from the other side of the horizon of these three objects, I saw some more vapor trails with some more jets coming towards it. I was waiting for the bus, but I was absolutely transfixed by now at these things. I'd seen them move and stop dead. And as I looked up into the sky, as the jets got closer, they just took off. And at that point, I thought to myself, well, God help this world if we're up against something like that that's against us. I mean, these people here think they're friendly. Well, I don't know that view at all. I would say, you know, that they definitely exist, and you've got to sort of, I don't know, try and get some defence against them.
Two shots behind. Gentleman in the grey suit first.
I saw what I thought must have been one of these vehicles, and it appeared through the window. It came towards me through the window.
Where, at home?
Yes, and it was only about 2 feet in diameter and a greenish-grey colour, and the shape of it was like a very thick magnifying glass, you know, a double convex arrangement, and it came up to me, it didn't speak to me, but I could get the mental transference that don't be afraid, we're friendly.
This reminds me of that ad for that washing up liquid. But, I mean, whoosh through the window. Now, again...
But not fast, no.
What happened when it got in the house?
Well, it stayed there for a while and then disappeared.
Was there a noise associated
No
with it?
noises at all, no.
But, I mean, would it come into your kitchen? Where did it come?
No, it was in the lounge.
It came into the lounge. And did it circle round?
No, it just came in slowly through the window and stopped in front of me. And then I got this impression, well, you know, a mental transference that it was friendly and not to be afraid, and they were there to do a certain job.